guys, welcome back to my channel. Hello if you're new. Today we are basically going over my 25 books to read in 2025 video, which I'm very excited to film. I'm sorry my last 3 videos, or this will be the 3rd video in the exact same setup, but I promise I do have a reading vlog coming. I think I mentioned it in my January wrap-up that I am going to make a reading only romance books in a week. I'm in the process of filming that, and I just thought I would discuss my 25 to read in 2025 before it gets a bit too far into 2025 where there's no point in really discussing this. But I am very prone to buying loads of books at not the same pace that I can read them, so there are some really incredible books that I have not read yet, and I feel just baffled with the fact that I haven't read them yet, because I also get this weird thing where I almost get like a mental block, or like I get scared to read books that I know I'll love, because I'm like, what if I don't love them? But I know I will, so I don't know why I do it. Weird habit I have. But we're going to be tackling a lot of those books in this challenge, which would be very exciting. And I made sure to not put any books that I've already knocked off. Let's get on to the list. So to start, we have Milk Teeth by Jessica Andrews. I think I've had this for 2 years now, or going on 2 years. It just sounds very up my alley. Just another like lit fic surrounding like relationships, and I've just heard nothing but good things about it from all my friends and all my old coworkers who have read it, and the cover is just gorgeous, isn't it? And I just think the kind of setting of like Barcelona and the Mediterranean just sounds like such an interesting and like just fantastic book to read. I'd love to get that done, hopefully over the summer. I feel like that's the perfect time. Then the next book is Our Wives Under the Sea by Julia Armfield. I'm shocked that I haven't read this yet. I don't think I've ever heard a bad thing about it, so I don't know why it's taken me this long to read it. I've owned it, again, I think for another 2 years, but I just haven't read it yet. I will say this one will be a bit delayed in reading it, just because I have promised it to one of my friends. It's actually the one, if you watched my last video, the one that I lent I Have Never Known Men to. She's very excited about reading this, and I will not get in the way of her and reading this, as it wasn't next on my TBR anyway, so I wouldn't want to hoard it for no reason. Then I have Bunny. I am just like, the concept of it is so good, and I know I'll love it. I got to page 22 last time I tried to pick it up and read it, but I was in a reading slump and I just had to put it down. Not anything to do with the book. I was loving the book. It just wasn't the time for it. There's a time and place for every book, but as you can see, I have owned it and taken it with me many a time, as it's very frayed and splitting along the edges because of how much I've always planned on reading this and then never actually did. But I don't know, I just love the idea of just like weird girls. I just love books about weird women, and it's just really interesting with this sort of like there's always been that group of girls who it's like, are they like a cult, or are they just like the popular clique? I don't know. I think it's very interesting, and I like her writing style from what I read so far when I did read it last, so I will definitely be giving this another shot. I'm very excited to give another shot. One of my friends at work is actually reading this at the moment, or last time I saw her, she was reading it. I'm very excited because I will be able to talk about it, which is very fun. And next is something that I'm still so shocked I haven't read, because I was so obsessed with the first one in this series, and I'm not a person who really reads series. I don't know. I'm just not a big fantasy person, so I've never been the type to like have to keep up with series, so I almost don't know how to do it. The only series I keep up with religiously is the Percy Jackson series. Other than that, I'm not good with it, but it is Hellbent by Leigh Bardugo. I absolutely ate up Ninth House. I thought the kind of like magic, the world, was so interesting. And to not spoil what happens in the first one, I don't want to say too much because obviously this is a sequel, but the character that is like kind of like the main bit of this book is my favorite character. I really loved him. Very excited, and I know the third one is coming. I think it is at least. But I specifically waited till it was out in paperback to read it. And then I've owned the paperback basically since it came out, and I haven't read it. So I need to get on it because I really did love Ninth House, which makes me want to read other books that have more magic involved and kind of get back into fantasy that way. But very excited about this as well. And then we've got The Silence of the Girls by Pat Barker. I am a mythology girly. I always have been. Greek mythology, Roman mythology. I've always just loved it so much. Again, like I said, Percy Jackson. I listened to this podcast called Let's Talk About Myths, Baby. I love it so much. I need to read this. I got a copy of The Voyage Home, which is the third one in this series. I got a proof of it when I was at work over the summer, and I didn't get to read the whole series before I got it, and then before the book came out. I just haven't read it yet, and I'm so excited because, I mean, people love it so much, and I just know I will as well. And it just sounds like such a beautiful retelling. I'm very excited to kind of see the kind of like reality of this sort of, the gruesome reality that a lot of kind of like of the time, you know. Very excited about this as well. And then next on the list we have a book that I feel like I've spoken about ad nauseum already, but Penance by Eliza Clark. And I do have a signed version. Oh, I love her so much. I do also have a hardback version, but I also had to buy the paperback when I saw it was signed. I tried to pick it up. It's another case like Bunny where I tried to pick it up one time, was not in the place for it, put it down because I respect Eliza too much. I love her too much to try to read this book when I'm not in the mood. But I'm like revitalized. My love for Eliza Clark is revitalized through reading She's Always Hungry, her short story collection, and I absolutely will be reading Penance this year because I need to be done with the backlog before the next book comes out. I'm already desperate and waiting for the next book. Perfect. So now the next one is another book that I've heard nothing but good things about it, and it almost scared me to read it, is Piranesi, I'm going to say Piranesi by Susanna Clark. This is one of those ones where I feel like I've spoken about it with so many of my friends, but I know nothing. And I'd like to keep it that way, I think. Again, I only know what's on the back, and it's so interesting. I'll read you what's on the back because it doesn't really tell you anything, and that's all I know about it. So, Piranesi lives in the house. Perhaps he always has. The messages begin to appear, scratched out in chalk on the pavements. There is someone new in the house, but who are they and what do they want? Lost texts must be found, secrets must be uncovered. The world that Piranesi thought he knew is becoming strange and dangerous. The beauty of the house is immeasurable, its kindness infinite. What? I don't know what genre this is. I don't know anything. And that's so interesting to me. It's those books where, despite being recommended it over and over and over again, they never really tell you what's going on. Those are always the books that hit the hardest, I think. So I'm very excited about that. Now, next on my list is, where's she gone? I've got a massive pile of my books, basically just to the right of me. So I'm trying to navigate them in just the order that I've written them on here, which again, there isn't really an order to these. These aren't the order in which I want to read these. It's just the order I wrote them down because it was kind of started out alphabetical when I was looking down my bookshelf. But we have Girl, Woman, Other by Bernardine Evaristo. This is a book, again, I've heard nothing but good things about. I think her other book, Mr. Loverman, isn't that what it's called? I think just got turned into a film or a show, which sounds very, very good. And I really liked the trailer that I saw for it. So I'd really love to give that a read. I'm trying to see if it says in here. Yes, Mr. Loverman. Mr. Loverman, I also want to read, but I own this. I was like, I'm gonna read this first before I just go out and buy Mr. Loverman, because another habit that I want to break in 2025 is to buy an entire author's backlog before I know if I actually like their writing. But this sounds so, so beautiful. I love the idea of just like following loads of different characters. I think that's very, very cool. So, and also Booker Prize winner, so obviously they got to be doing something right. Next, I have a book that I feel like that has just been flirting with me since before I bought it, but it is Cleopatra and Frankenstein by Coco Mellors. It just sounds so up my alley. It's just, I don't know how to describe the genre that this is, but just, again, weird relationship stuff, the reality, I don't know, it just feels very like, it's always absurd circumstances, but they always feel so real and raw and honest. And just, I really want to read Blue Sisters as well. I'm very excited to go through her stuff. She's another case where I have bought both books, but I'm very excited to read both of them. So the next book, I feel like as a former gifted kid, I am shocked that I haven't read The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I always plan on reading it. It gets put on my TBR like so often. It's been on my TBR so many times, and then I just always forget to read it, or it's a bit of a task to take on. I think we're all aware of that. But my younger cousin's reading it at the moment, and I would like to actually have read it as well, because that is what's putting a bit of a pep in my step with this book in particular. I would like to read that. Next book on this list is Good Material. If you can't see, I did get sent a proof of this. I also never got around to reading it, which I feel so, so terrible about because I've heard so many good things about it. But I do want to read this because I absolutely loved everything I know about love. And I really, really enjoyed the kind of storytelling and the kind of plots that she can write, and these like really beautiful just characters and humans that she writes. I know everything I know about love is her writing about herself because it's a memoir. I haven't read Ghosts, but I'm very excited by this because I did start it. I did get fairly far, in fairness. Got to page 73. I don't remember any of it because it was about a year and a half ago. I will read it again, but I really did like the characters, and I thought the way that she was writing it was very, very interesting, and I did really want to read it. But again, second year was rough for me. I didn't read a lot, and I had a lot to do. Next book on this list is Minor Detail by Adania Shibli, I think is how you say it. This, I've just heard so many good things about it, and just sounds so beautiful, and just, yeah, and I feel like it's such an important story to read right now, and I wanted to read it ages ago, and again, it was just one of those cases where I was like, this is far too important of a story for me to try and read it when I'm not in the place where I think I will enjoy it. Not that it's like to be enjoyed, but you know what I mean, to like, I wouldn't give it a fair shot. So I'm very excited to read this because I've heard, again, it's one of those cases I've heard nothing but good things about it, so I'm very excited to read this as well. And then the next book on the list is My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante. You can tell I've owned this for a while because it doesn't have the New York Times like best book of the century sticker on it, but this is, again, it has me written all over it, just kind of stories of female friendship throughout their lives, and the fact that it's like 4 books is so exciting to me, and it draws me in so much. And also, I want to be part of the conversation when people are talking about this book because it is kind of been revitalized. Obviously, people knew about it before, but you can't really not know about the #1 book of the century according to the New York Times, whether or not people agree with the list. We know that that's what it is now. So, but the next book is The Remains of the Day by Kazuo Ishiguro. I've heard so many good things about this author. You know, I mean, you can't not walk into a bookshop and see so many of his books, and I really want to read The Remains of the Day and Never Let Me Go. The one that's turning 20 this year, and the kind of blue one, if you're looking at the UK covers, I think it's Never Let Me Go. I just can't remember if there's the me in there. But this is the one I own, and again, I'm working on not buying loads of books by the authors, and this one also sounds very good. And I got this secondhand copy from a bookshop on Charing Cross Road. I can't remember which one, but I'm very excited. I think the cover is really beautiful, so very excited. And again, this one, another Booker Prize. Actually, 30 years apart from Girl, Woman, Other, which is very interesting. Very fun coincidence, but yes. The next book on my list is that Babel. This is one of those mammoths of a book to take on. I've been very intimidated by. It's not on this list, but I probably will be reading Yellowface by R.F. Kuang first, just because I'm a bit intimidated by her. I do put her in the same space as like The Secret History and If We Were Villains, but I think she's the most kind of daunting of the three of them. But I really want to get this done before Calabasas comes out, because they both sound so interesting to me. And I don't know, it's just like, I want to read this, and I want to get on the train and go to Oxford, because I live in Reading. That's not that far. I can get on Great Western Railway and waddle on over to Oxford, and I can be just like in Oxford reading this book, which would be so cool to like be able to like put a setting, kind of like put a face to the name, but like put a setting to the place. That doesn't make sense, but like put a place to the setting, maybe. I don't know, I don't think it works, but we can pretend. Next book is one I feel like I couldn't stop hearing about over the summer, and I'm so annoyed that I didn't read it. Evenings and Weekends by Oisin McKenna. Again, right up my alley. The fact that this all takes place in a weekend is just, right, it's just in one weekend. Sounds very exciting to me. And the stories and the characters sound so like three-dimensional, just so interesting. And it's been, spoiler alert for later on this list, it's been compared to Zadie Smith. And it's so many people that I know is like top book or top 3 books of the year last year. So I simply have to know what all the fuss is about. The next book, it's kind of clear how long I've owned this based on the fact that I have the US cover of this, and I have lived in the UK for 3 years now. The Song of Achilles. I started this, I loved where it was going, and I loved everything I was reading. And then, yeah, like how far did I get? I got almost 100 pages in, and then I got scared that it's gonna make me too sad, so I stopped reading it. I know it's gonna make me sad, but I'm going to, again, just like with some of these others, start it from the beginning in the right state of mind. The next book that I have on here is just one that it's a bit of reprieve in the kind of the intensity of some of these books. It is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. I just have never read one of these like kind of YA mystery crime novels, and I've heard so many good things about this book and just that kind of genre in general. And I don't know, I'd really like to watch the show as well. I've heard it's kind of very different, but I'd really like to read this, and it just seems like a very interesting, intricately woven plot, and I think it's a really cool premise, so I'm very excited. The next book on here, another one of the ones where I'm shocked that I haven't read it yet, but I've got My Year of Rest and Relaxation. I don't know, it's just, I think I heard so many almost like mixed things about it that I was kind of like, maybe I don't want to read it, but I do want to read it, because again, it's one of those times I want to be a part of the zeitgeist. I know the zeitgeist for this is kind of over, but I want to know what people are talking about it when I see discourse. I like being involved, and I do think the cover is really beautiful. It's not my favorite version of these covers. I really like the it's the more like blue version with the girl like kind of folded over the chair, kind of fold it over herself. But this is another one of those that's on there for me. And then I've got Small Worlds by Caleb Azuma Nelson. I absolutely loved Open Water. It is one of my favorite books of all time. And this one is, it's signed, which is so exciting. But I really want to read it. And I was going to wait till the paperback came out when I was going to buy this. The paperback's already out by the time that I'm saying this, and it's been out for a while. But because it's such like a short book, the paperback, the hardback is so small, I was like, I can get it. I can get the signed version and not be annoyed about it being a hardback. But yes, that is also on there. And then I've got a few more back here. I'm so shocked that I haven't read this. But again, like I said, reading slumps, busy, all that. It's Intermezzo. I love Sally Rooney. She is like auto-buy author who changed my life. Completely like rewired, altered my brain chemistry, did all of the things to me. I've heard so many good things about it. I just was not in the space to be destroyed by her writing. Next book on my list is The Island of Missing Trees by Elif Shafak. This just sounds like exactly what I look for in books. I don't know. Anytime it's like this book is talking about love and grief, or love and like sadness, or love and heartbreak, it's always when it's love mixed with some sort of like sad negative emotion that really gets me going with books. But I'm very excited to read this as well. And then I think, as I mentioned earlier, we've got NW by Zadie Smith on here. She's been one of those authors that I've been so desperate to read and just haven't gotten around to it. And I know that it's like 20th anniversary of White Teeth, I think, this year. Some big anniversary for White Teeth. NW is the one that I have, so I'm going to read NW. I've heard such good things about it. The back of it sounds so good. They mention it in Open Water by Caleb Azuma Nelson, so I'm very excited to read this. And I'm so excited. Like, I'm just so excited to get around to it. The next author that I have on that list is Douglas Stewart's Shuggie Bain. I did lose the dust jacket because I got a very reduced hardback of it. And I will be reading the hardback of it purely because I also have the hardback to Young Mungo. I think that one's signed. I randomly found it in a sort of local bookshop in Ware, I think. But yeah, I got a signed version of that, but I don't feel like I can read that when I don't know if I like him, if that makes sense. I feel like I'm not like worthy of reading that beautiful signed edition. I know I'm gonna love him because, again, his writing is so like my personal genre. But we're gonna start with Shuggie Bain, and then we're gonna read Young Mungo after that. But I'm very excited by this. I think this one has more awards as well, if I remember correctly. Not that awards matter to me, but just in like an observation way. But yes. And the final book, number 25 out of 25 on my list, is Drive Your Plow Over the Bones of the Dead by Olga Tokarczuk. If you can't see, that is the Nobel Prize sticker on this book, which is very, very exciting. An existential thriller is what it defines itself as on the back. And I don't know, I really liked the kind of print of it. It really like enticed me. I don't know, everything about this book and this edition enticed me. So I'm very excited to read this as well. And that is number 25. There are definitely some other books that I really do want to get to, but when I was writing this list, I did end up sticking to only fiction. I do have some nonfiction books. In no way would I possibly be able to get up to 25, but that is where we're at with that. But those are all the books that I want to read in 2025. I hope you guys enjoyed me yapping about books for like, my camera's saying 30 minutes. Sorry if it really ends up being that long, but I will see you guys later. Bye guys.